tonight on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 6th of May 2025. The wait begins. Voting for the local government polls concludes at 4 p.m. today with a 60% turnout, nearly an 8% drop from Sri Lanka's last election. Vote counting currently underway as the country eagerly anticipates the results. All beneath the law. Voting ended peacefully, observers say, but criticizes the Prime Minister's statement as a violation of election laws. The Prime Minister responds, saying Election Commission rules apply to her as well. First to serve, Derana takes the lead in delivering the latest local government election results to the public using state-of-the-art technology. Sustainable future. Renewed efforts are needed to turn sustainable finance policies into real-world impact, says the central bank, highlighting key financial instruments that could benefit the nation. Justice pending. 6 more undergraduates of Sabaragamu University arrested in connection with the recent suicide of a fellow undergraduate.
Cinec Campus Open Day. May masa 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now, in your top story tonight, Sri Lanka conducted polls for local government elections today after a 7-year hiatus. Polling began at 7 a.m. at over 13,500 polling centres island-wide and concluded at 4 p.m. Notably, the national average voter turnout was 60% at the close of polls, a nearly 20% decline compared to the last local government elections in 2018.
Sri Lanka last held elections for the country's local authorities in 2018. Although local government elections should be held every 4 years, polls were postponed on several occasions owing to the economic crisis. Accordingly, this year local government elections are being held after a 7-year hiatus. 75,589 candidates representing 49 recognized political parties and 257 independent groups are contesting the elections, in which 8,227 members are to be elected for 339 of Sri Lanka's 341 local authorities, which include 28 municipal councils, 36 urban councils and 275 Pradeshia Sabhas. Joining our live election coverage, Executive Director of PAFREL, Rohana Hettiarachchi, shed light on the mixed member proportional representation electoral system under which the local government election is being held.
If I get one local authority, you may have 100,000 valid votes in this local authority and you are going to elect altogether 20 councillors. Then we have to get 5,000 votes for elect one councillor. Then let's say one political party got around 31,000 votes across the local authority. You are supposed to get 6 councillors for your party. If you take the same example, 20 councillors, it could be roughly about 12 vote based 8-list system because it's a 60-40 percentage. So the election commission will look at how many votes you want. Let's say you want 4 votes. So you will easily get those 4 people who were nominated during the nomination period. Then there are 2 others. Those 2 will go to the second list. Then you will altogether get 6 members. Let's say the other way around, you have got 31,000, so you are eligible to get 6 seats and your party already won 6 seats in the ground level. Then you don't have any chance to nominate your second list people. It can be other way also. Let's say your party won 7 seats in the ground. Then we have to increase the total number of councillors in that council. Earlier we said it's 20 councillors in this local authority. Now it's increased up to 21. We call it overhang. So that is why we can't finalize the exact number until we finish the overall counting.
17,156,338 Sri Lankans were eligible to vote in this year's election. Polling was conducted at 13,759 polling centres island-wide.
I'm at the polling centre located at the College House building of the University of Colombo. Voting commenced at 7 a.m. this morning and over 1.7 million voters across the Colombo polling district were eligible to cast their ballots across 1,209 polling stations. Tallying began shortly after polls closed at 4 p.m. today at the polling stations itself. I'm Derana reporting for Derana.
According to official data received from district secretaries, at the conclusion of polling at 4 p.m, a national average voter turnout was 60%. Additionally, the voter turnout in the Jaffna district was recorded at 57%, Vaunia at 60%, Kilinochchi at 60% and Mullaitivu at 60%. Meanwhile, the voter turnout in the Colombo district was recorded at 52%, Gampaha at 56% and Kalutara at 61%. In the meantime, the voter turnout in the Galle district was marked as 63% and Mathura as 58% by 4 p.m. today. Meanwhile, the voter turnout in the Kandy district was recorded at 58% and the voter turnout in Matale was marked as 62%. In the meantime, the voter turnout in the Mana district was recorded at 70%, Putlam at 55% and Kurunagala at 55%. Voter turnout in the Batticaloa district was marked as 61%, Trincomalee at 67% and Digamadulla at 63% as of 4 p.m. today. Voter turnout in the Anuradhapura district was recorded at 60% and the voter turnout in Polonnaruwa was marked as 64%. Voter turnout in the Ratnapura district was recorded at 60% and Kegol at 58%. In the meantime, voter turnout in the Badulla district was marked at 60% and the voter turnout in Monaragala was recorded at 61%. The 60% voter turnout during this year's election is a steep decline compared to the presidential and parliamentary elections last year, as well as the local government elections in 2018. During the last local government elections in 2018, 12,583,786 voters had cast their ballots, which represented a 79.94% voter turnout. Meanwhile, a 79.46% voter turnout was recorded during the presidential election in September last year, while it was 68.93% during the parliamentary election in November. The counting of votes commenced following the close of polls at 4 p.m.
The
Election Commission was informed that polling was conducted peacefully. Tallying of votes has commenced at polling centres themselves. Once votes cast at polling centres are tallied, that figure will be sent to the central counting centre of each respective polling division, where the final result of the division will be finalised. Thereafter, divisional results will be sent to the District Election Operations Centre of each respective district, where the final results of the local authorities of that district, including the number of seats won by each political party and independent group, will be finalized. Once these results are sent to the Election Secretariat and approved by the Election Commission, they will be announced by the respective district returning officers. We request that the public remain at home peacefully until the official results are announced by the Election Commission.
I'm at Royal College Colombo, the Central Operations Centre of the Colombo polling district. Votes tallied at the respective polling stations will be forwarded here, after which the tally for the Colombo district will be announced.
President Anukumara Dissanayake, who returned to Sri Lanka after concluding his official state visit to Vietnam, cast his vote this afternoon. Meanwhile, all other party leaders and political representatives too cast their ballots at their respective polling stations.
Polling for the 2025 local government election commenced across all polling stations island-wide at 7 a.m. this morning. President Anura Dissanayake cast his ballot at the Saikoji preschool at Abesingharama Temple, Panchikawatha, after returning to the island this afternoon following the conclusion of his official state visit to Vietnam.
We carried out a successful election campaign. I believe we will receive good results. A new political culture is being established. The people of Sri Lanka peacefully celebrated victory at the presidential and parliamentary elections. We believe the people of Sri Lanka will follow the same trend and maintain peace.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya cast her vote at the polling centre located at the Mirihana Samurdhi Hall.
Representatives at the local level were missing for a very long time, and they're a crucial link to ensuring that our development goals and our development targets flow down smoothly to the grassroots. So this is a really essential component in that system. The local councillor is the citizen's closest representative, elected representative, and the representative that is most immediately needed for their everyday function. So this was a big gap, and we are really pleased to be able to finally hold this election, and we are confident that the NPP will win. And And in that sense, then it makes our target of ensuring that the development flows both ways, the consultation from bottom up and the accountability systems from bottom up and from top to bottom are now in place and will be in place. This makes our task much easier.
In the meantime, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa cast his ballot at the polling station set up at Kotuwegoda Vivekarama Viharaya in Rajagiriya.
We believe that the SJB will win. We will commit ourselves to develop the country by developing villages and cities through our victory.
Leader of the Sarvachana Balaya MP Dilip Jayavira voted at the polling station located at the Sri Chandraramaya temple in Midihana.
We utilized the local government election to raise awareness of the real national challenges confronting the people of this country. The decision of this LG election will be to determine whether voters who brought the NPP government into power are ready to rectify their mistake or not.
Meanwhile, at the polling station set up at the D.A. Rajapaksa College, Hambantota, parliamentarian of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna MP Namal Rajapaksa cast his vote.
Our supporters showed great enthusiasm to vote. They are well aware of what we did and how the government lied.
Leader of the United National Party, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, cast his vote at the polling centre located at the College House building of the University of Colombo this morning.
We have a democratic system similar to that of the United Kingdom. No one is coming in to vote. Yes, I went in alone. As per what I've learned, voters who are affiliated with candidates came to vote. This is mainly seen in villages. However, that is not the case in these areas.
Excellency, this will also be a litmus test for the current government. Do you think your candidates will fare better this time around as compared to the previous elections?
I think we want our candidates to do well. The government has made it a litmus test on themselves.
Former President Chandrika Kumaratunga cast her vote at the polling station set up at Sri Kshetrarama Viharaya in Nitambua. Meanwhile, political leaders and parliamentarians representing the government as well as the opposition cast their ballots at their respective polling stations.
We will secure victory. The opposition, who can't ever defeat the government and who can only show division, will have to accept defeat. We don't expect a significant change in public opinion. However, we hope to give them a good competition. Let's see what happens. We don't know what the end result will be. Those who previously claimed 3% of the total vote increased their share by accumulating support from other political parties and alliances. However, those parties and alliances are separately contesting this time. Let's see what will happen, considering the tall tales they have been touting. We believe that the people will not be fooled for a third time too. Counting will commence in a short while. Let's see.
As Sri Lanka looks forward to the results of the local government election, Derana is set to keep you posted with the latest updates through its special election coverage, Sri Lanka Decides. With the use of advanced technology and real-time graphics, we will bring to you live updates and insights as the election results come in. Polling for the 2025 local government election to elect members for the 339 local government councils commenced at 13,759 polling centres island-wide at 7 a.m. today. Derana stands ready to keep you updated on the latest information regarding the local government polls through the Sri Lanka Decides special election coverage. The election coverage kicked off with Derana Aruna at 6:25 a.m. Thereafter, the Sri Lanka Decides special election coverage commenced broadcasting on TV Derana and Derana 24 from 8 a.m. onwards. With production teams and correspondents stationed in each district across the island, we are prepared to bring you all the latest updates of the 2025 local government election throughout the day. Studio 24 in Colombo, the largest news studio in South Asia, is equipped with cutting-edge technology to deliver the latest election updates and results to you with live graphics. The special election results broadcast commenced at 6 p.m. this evening. In addition, election updates will be publicized in Sinhala, English and Tamil through FM Derana, the Derana.lk website, Derana text alerts and on our YouTube, Facebook and X accounts. Several incidents of election law violations and clashes were reported during the local government elections. However, election observers noted a decline in the volume of such incidents compared to previous polls, citing fewer reports of violence and breaches of law. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya stated that if any remarks she made during a campaign rally are deemed to violate election law, she is fully prepared to comply with the Election Commission's decisions. The final public rally organised by the National People's Power for the local government elections was held in the Televela area of Moratuwa on the 3rd, just hours before the official silent period began. Attention quickly turned to a controversial statement made by Prime Minister Dr. Harni Amarasuriya during the event.
අපිට තව පැය 4කින් අපි නිහඬ වෙනවා. ඔබ නිහඬ වෙන්න ඕනේ නෑනේ. ටෙලිෆෝන් කෝල් එකක් දාලා අල්ලපු ගෙදර එක්කෙනාට පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරලා පාරේ යන එන ගමන් මොන හරි වචනයක් කියලා ෂේප් එකේ වැඩේ කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Following the statement, the Samagi Janabala Vegya and several election watchdog groups lodged complaints with the Election Commission, alleging that the Prime Minister's remarks violated election law.
තාම බරපතල ලෙස අගමැතිතුමිය මේ මැතිවරණ ව්‍යාපාරයේ නීති උල්ලංඝනය කළා තිබෙනවා. මැතිවරණ කොමිසම වහාම මේ සම්බන්ධව තීන්දුවක් ගත යුතුයි.
රටේ අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමියගේ ප්‍රකාශය මැතිවරණ නීතිය නොසලකා හැරීමට පෙළඹවීමක් හැටියට අපේ නිරීක්ෂණය වෙනවා.
වැරදි තැනක සිදු කරන ලද වැරදි
In response, Prime Minister Dr. Harni Amarasuriya issued a statement today addressing the controversy.
මැතිවරණ නීති උල්ලංඝනය කිරීමේ අදහසකින් නෙවෙයි මම
I did not make that statement with the intention of violating election laws. If laws have been reached, then, even as Prime Minister, I accept that the actions taken by the Election Commission apply to me as well. I'm actually encouraged by the fact that people are now vigilant and speaking up about such matters. Compared to past violations, this shows a shift towards a healthier political culture.
Despite these incidents, election monitoring organizations report a decline in violence and legal violations compared to past elections.
We observed around 60% of polling stations across the country and received 111 complaints. Considering that more than 75,000 candidates participated nationwide, this election can be considered largely peaceful. Even during the silent period, we saw a more restrained and respectful political environment compared to previous elections.
Meanwhile, speaking to Ada Derana during our pre-election coverage, Executive Director of PAFREL Rohan Hettiarachchi said the nature of complaints were also different from previous elections.
We also heard certain reports that over 50 local government election candidates have been apprehended by the authorities, and we also heard a few news stories about how certain incidents have transpired in the early hours of today as well.
Again, we have to seriously look at the previous elections in 2018 elections. During pre-election period, 916 complaints. So this election, 514. But not only the numbers also decreased, but the nature of the complaints also completely different. So this elections in a recent history, even parliamentary elections also quite all right. The recent elections, this is much better elections which we are facing today.
President Anukumara Dissanayake cast his ballot for the local government election early this afternoon after touching down in Sri Lanka, concluding his 3-day state visit to Vietnam. The president also delivered the keynote address at the 20th United Nations Day of Vesak celebrations held this morning.
President Anukumara Dissanayake arrived in Sri Lanka this afternoon following his 3-day state visit to Vietnam upon an invitation extended by the Vietnamese President Luang Quang. During his visit, 4 memoranda of understanding and 1 bilateral agreement were signed yesterday. Additionally, the agreement signed was a bilateral pact on enhancing cooperation and mutual support in customs affairs between Sri Lanka and Vietnam. Among the MOUs signed were an MOU between the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Vietnam and the Ministry of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development of Sri Lanka on cooperation in machinery and equipment manufacturing, an MOU between the Vietnam Academy of Agricultural Sciences and the Department of Agriculture of Sri Lanka on cooperation in agriculture, an MOU between the Bandaranaike International Diplomatic Training Institute of Sri Lanka and the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam, and an MOU between the Vietnam Trade Promotion Agency and the Sri Lanka Export Development Board on Trade Promotion Cooperation. Meanwhile, this morning, President Dissanayake attended the 20th United Nations Day of Vesak celebrations in Ho Chi Minh City as the chief guest. The president also delivered the keynote address at the inaugural session before departing to Sri Lanka on a special flight of the Vietnamese government.
As we speak, weapons that could destroy humanity are being manufactured and tested. Thousands are shot dead while some are killed in bombings. Children who know nothing about war are ensnared by these conflicts. Families are being separated. The pain of losing their loved ones will haunt them forever. War has contributed to the downfall of human civilization far more than it has helped it improve. War has only caused catastrophe and unbearable pain to the people. We experienced the cruelty of war during the 30-year civil war. Peace is the only solution that will prevent these massacres. We will only have to face catastrophes and pain until we realize that.
6 more undergraduates have been arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department in connection with the recent suicide of an undergraduate at the University of Sabaragamuwa. After being produced before the Balangada Magistrates Court, the suspects were remanded until the 16th of May. 6 more undergraduates of the Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka were arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department in connection with the death of a fellow student allegedly due to ragging. The arrested individuals, along with those arrested yesterday in connection with the same incident, have been remanded until May 16th by the Balangada Magistrates Court. The deceased, Charit Dilshan, a 23-year-old second-year undergraduate of the Department of Engineering Technology at the University of Sabaragamuwa, took his own life on the 29th of April. Initial findings suggested that he took his own life after being severely distressed by ragging at the university. Following developments in the investigations conducted into the tragic death, a total of 10 students are currently in custody, including 4 third-year students arrested by the CID on Saturday, along with 4 more students who had surrendered to the Samanala police yesterday. Furthermore, 11 students from the Sabaragamuwa University have been suspended from academic activities following their involvement in the ragging incident. Now in other news, World Bank Group President Ajay Banga is expected to visit Sri Lanka tomorrow, making him the first World Bank Group President to visit the country in nearly 20 years. The visit follows an invitation from President Anura Dissanayake during a congratulatory call between the two leaders shortly after his appointment to presidency last November. The World Bank Group President is scheduled to meet with President Dissanayake, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya and senior government and private sector leaders. In a statement, the World Bank noted that the discussions will center on how Sri Lanka can overcome current challenges and seize new opportunities as it continues to recover economically and socially.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Welcome back. You're joining Ada Derana, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. Now, the central bank says that despite the progress made by the country in developing policy frameworks for sustainable finance, through the roadmap of 2019, renewed efforts are needed to translate these policies into tangible actions. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka, through the recently launched Sustainable Finance Roadmap 2.0 highlights the major financial instruments said that our sustainable finance products should seek to leverage synergies between social and environmental outcomes.
In the Sustainable Finance Roadmap 2.0, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka states that a minimum sustainable finance products should include safeguards to prevent harmful impacts on other dimensions of sustainability. Accordingly, the sustainable finance instruments with the highest potential for Sri Lanka and within the scope and mandate of the CBSL include sustainable loans, deposits and leasing. These instruments enable borrowers to use the proceeds exclusively for projects that make a substantial contribution to environmental and social objectives. According to the CBSL, sustainable loans may be directly funded by the proceeds of sustainable deposits. These deposits consist of financial products that allow individuals and organizations to direct their funds to banks and non-bank financial institutions to finance sustainable projects. Sustainable loans, commonly referred to as green loans in Sri Lanka, are among the most widely used sustainable finance instruments and are already offered by most commercial banks in the country. Another key instrument is labelled bonds, which include green bonds, social bonds and sustainable bonds. These constitute the 3 main categories of labelled bonds, often collectively referred to as sustainable bonds. Debt for nature swaps are another instrument. These agreements involve creditors providing debt relief in exchange for environmental investments. According to the CBSL, this non-traditional source of financing may regain interest in the current global environment, characterized by geopolitical tensions and economic challenges that are increasing pressure on sovereign debt. The CBSL also encourages the adoption of de-risking instruments. The wider use of mechanisms such as credit guarantees or blended finance structures can facilitate private investment in projects that might otherwise be considered commercially or financially unviable. Sustainable insurance is another important tool. This includes insurance products that cover environmental risks as well as schemes specifically targeting vulnerable segments of the population and economy such as micro, small and medium enterprises, which are often excluded from traditional insurance markets. In parallel, the central bank promotes the incentivization of sustainable finance to boost the adoption of sustainable financial products. According to the CBSL, tailored incentives are needed for both financial institutions and borrowers or end clients to enhance enhance the attractiveness of these products and compensate for their perceived high risks and structuring or reporting complexities. Given Sri Lanka's current monetary, fiscal and sovereign context, there is a limited room to introduce new economic incentives or expand existing mechanisms in the medium term. Instead, the focus could be placed on greening and enhancing the inclusiveness of existing incentive schemes.
The Colombo Stock Exchange continued to end on a positive note today as a result of price gains in counters such as Melster Corp, Windforce and Aitken Spence. The benchmark all-share price index closed 0.28% higher at 15,961.59, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 0.22% to close at 4,674.92. Market turnover was 1.4 billion rupees. Food, beverage and tobacco sector emerged as top contributors to market turnover, followed by the banking sector as the second highest contributor. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers offloading shares worth 177 million rupees. Now in your world news, the Catholic Church's centuries-old tradition to elect a new pope will officially begin tomorrow. 133 cardinal electors will gather tomorrow at the Sistine Chapel for an election that could last hours, days or even months.
Behind the closed doors of the Sistine Chapel, cardinals from across the world will convene to elect the 267th pontiff. As the formal mourning period for Pope Francis has ended, attention now shifts to the papal conclave in Vatican City, where powerful members of the Catholic Church are converging to elect the next pontiff. The decision will be made by 133 cardinals who will begin meeting in conclave tomorrow in the 15th century Sistine Chapel. The cardinals, all under 80, will deliberate and then vote for their preferred candidate until a single name secures the support of 2/3 of them. Ballots are burned, and for every unsuccessful vote, black smoke is released from the Sistine Chapel. Once the next pope is successfully elected, white smoke emerges from the chapel. After a new pope is elected, he first accepts the role and chooses a papal name that reflects his vision or inspiration. From this moment, the newly elected pope acquires full and supreme authority over the Universal Church. The conclave ends immediately at this point.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.